"Oh, honey, you don't really belong in these family pictures. You're just not part of us yet." That's what my mother-in-law said to me one winter afternoon, voice calm, looking me straight in the eyes as if she was explaining something obvious, something I should already know. I don't think I'll ever forget that moment. I remember feeling something inside me sink. Not shatter, just sink, the way heavy things do when they know they can't float anymore. I learned right then that family wasn't always who you married into. Family could be an exclusive club with its own unspoken rules. And my mother-in-law was the gatekeeper. It wasn't the first time she'd made me feel unwelcome, but it was the first time she'd said it so plainly. Before that, she'd preferred to be subtle, almost surgical in her cruelty. It started with the photos. I'd always thought family photos were a way to hold on to memory, to keep a record of everyone who mattered. I'd grown up with albums full of birthdays, weddings, and random Sunday dinners. Even the blurry ones were precious. So when I joined my husband's family, I was ready to make those memories. The first time it happened was Thanksgiving. We'd all crammed around the table for a big family shot. My husband with his arm around me, his cousins cracking jokes, my sister-in-law's baby tugging at my hair. Later that night, my sister-in-law posted the picture on Facebook, and there I was, laughing with everyone. But when my mother-in-law shared her version, I was gone, cropped out cleanly, like I'd never been there at all. At first, I told myself it was an accident. She wasn't good with tech. Maybe she'd picked another version. I wanted to believe it, but it kept happening. Christmas, birthdays, backyard BBQs. I would see her checking her phone after we posed, zooming in, tapping, adjusting. When the photos went online, I was always missing. When I finally confronted her, she smiled at me with those bright, empty eyes. "Oh, honey, must be some glitch. You know how these apps are." She patted my arm like I was a child too stupid to understand. I took it to my husband. He didn't want to deal with it. He told me to ignore it. He said she didn't mean anything by it, but I wasn't stupid. It wasn't about forgetting me. It was about erasing me. I started watching her more carefully. The tightness in her jaw when I walked into the room. The way she corrected people who called me family. The clipped whenever I spoke at dinner. Every photo she shared was a curated version of reality. Her reality. One where I didn't exist. I stopped volunteering to take pictures, stopped posing. But even when I was forced into a group shot, I knew what would happen later. It wasn't just social media, it was a message. You are not one of us. You will never be one of us. I can't say when the hurt turned into something else, but eventually it did. It went quiet inside me. I realized she wasn't going to change, and my husband wasn't going to stand up to her. So if she insisted on pretending I wasn't there, I'd show her exactly what that felt like. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't beg. I'd just make sure she couldn't ignore me anymore. My name is Rachel, and I'm 32 years old. I don't consider myself naive, but when I married into that family, I genuinely believed that showing up, helping out, and loving their son would be enough. I believed I could earn my place at the table, like there was some quiet test of loyalty I'd eventually pass. I kept showing up. I kept trying, because that's what you do when you want to belong somewhere. For that first Christmas, I went all in. I spent days picking out thoughtful gifts, baking cookies from my grandmother's recipe, wrapping everything with perfect bows. I wanted to be seen as caring, generous, someone who belonged there. During the big family dinner, My husband was so proud of me. He kissed my cheek and insisted I pose in the group photo by the tree. My mother-in-law insisted on taking the picture. She held the phone high, directed everyone where to stand, and even made me switch places twice before she seemed satisfied. Her smile was polite, but her eyes were cold. That night, my sister-in-law posted the picture with all of us grinning in front of the tree. When I saw it on Facebook, I felt this tiny surge of hope. Maybe it would be okay. But then my mother-in-law uploaded her version. I was gone. Cropped out so perfectly, it looked intentional, even to someone who didn't know the backstory. My husband's arm hung awkwardly in the air, like he was hugging a ghost. When I showed him both versions, he sighed and rubbed his temples. "Babe, maybe she didn't realize. She's not great with this stuff." He didn't want to fight with her. I could tell by the way he avoided my eyes. I tried to let it go, but it kept happening. Easter brunch, gone. Birthday dinner, gone. Backyard BBQ, gone. It wasn't just the photos, it was everything. She corrected how I seasoned the roast I brought for dinner, remade my salad dressing without asking, and talked over me at every table conversation. If I offered to help in the kitchen, she smiled and told me she had it under control. If I tried to share a story, she turned to someone else mid-sentence and changed the subject. Once, during my sister-in-law's baby shower, I tried giving her an uncropped printed copy of the Christmas photo, the one where I was actually in it. "Thought you might want the full version," I said as gently as I could. Her smile was instantaneous, automatic. "Oh, sweetie, I only post the best angles. You know how you can be in photos." She said it with a light laugh, but her eyes didn't soften. The room went uncomfortably quiet. My face burned. She just turned back to the dessert table, humming as if nothing had happened. She was so good at it, that polite cruelty, always delivered in a way that made me seem dramatic if I pushed back. At 4th of July, it was the same story. We'd all gathered around the fire pit, my husband's arm tight around me, kids squealing with sparklers. My brother-in-law snapped a great picture of all of us. His Instagram version had me smiling, sparkler in hand. But my mother-in-law's upload was different, cropped tight around her sons and the grandkids. No trace of me. That night, I sat on the edge of our bed, phone in hand, scrolling back and forth between the two photos until the screen blurred. I remember asking my husband softly, "Do you see it now?" He was quiet for a long time. "It's just pictures. It's not worth all this stress." Not worth all this stress. That phrase sat between us like a wall. I stopped trying to explain. I started paying more attention instead, watching her, studying the way she planned everything. She had this perfectly curated gallery wall in her living room, dozens of coordinated frames, all uniform, all carefully arranged. Family milestones in neat chronological order. Her kingdom laid out in glass and wood. She updated those photos constantly. Every time I visited, there was a new print, but never one with me in it. She was documenting her version of reality, one where her family was whole, complete, and didn't include me. I noticed the way she hovered over guests at parties, offering them drinks before they could even finish the one in their hands. The way she would stand behind people in photos, angling their shoulders, smoothing hair, instructing smiles. She was a director, and her family was the cast. I was just the prop that didn't fit the scene. She never yelled. She never called me names. She just erased me. That was her genius. She could make me doubt myself. Was I being too sensitive? Too needy? But late at night, looking at those photos, I knew I wasn't imagining it. Eventually, I stopped offering to take photos. I stopped asking to help. I stopped trying to talk to her at all, unless it was absolutely necessary. She noticed. She commented to my husband about how withdrawn I'd become. He tried to mediate. He asked me to please not make things worse. I just nodded. Inside, though, something was hardening. She wasn't going to stop, and he wasn't going to stop her. So I made a choice. If she was going to insist on pretending I didn't exist, I'd show her what that really felt like. I wouldn't raise my voice. I wouldn't beg. I would give her exactly what she loved most. A beautiful, perfect family photo. One she couldn't crop. But before I could do that, I had to plan. I started saving every photo I found that she'd edited, every cropped version, screenshots, printed copies. I made a folder on my computer labeled for reference. I noted the dimensions of her gallery wall, the style of frames she used, the lighting in her living room in the afternoon, the glare from the window at sunset. If she wanted to control the story, I'd just make sure she couldn't edit the ending. Used to think revenge was ugly, loud, even childish. That was before I understood how quiet it could be, how patient. After I stopped trying to talk sense into anyone, I gave myself permission to observe. No more pleading for fairness, just watching, taking notes. It started simply. I screenshotted every cropped photo I found online, downloaded them, printed them out, slipped them into a cheap folder from the drugstore. One night, while my husband snored beside me, I sat cross-legged on the floor of our spare room with that folder open in front of me. Each photo was evidence, a record of her choices. It felt oddly clinical, like building a case file. There was the Thanksgiving shot with the missing wife, the Christmas tree photo with the phantom arm around nothing, the 4th of July picture where the sparkler light fell on everyone but me. I laid them all out on the carpet and studied them like a map. She didn't make mistakes. She planned these crops carefully. The framing was always artful. She'd learned exactly how to cut me out without making it look accidental to anyone who wasn't paying attention. It was insulting and impressive at the same time. I felt a cold, detached sort of respect. I also started paying attention to her gallery wall more carefully. Every time I visited, I pretended to admire it. "New frame?" I'd ask. "Oh, I switch them all the time," she'd say, with that practiced smile. I took note of the frame size, the style, the color, weathered black wood, slightly rustic, deliberately uniform. She was consistent, obsessed with symmetry. One Sunday after lunch at her house, I excused myself to the bathroom and spent 5 full minutes just standing in her hallway, memorizing the layout of those frames. I even measured one with my fingers and later wrote it down in my notes app. 8 by 10. At home, I began researching custom printing companies. I learned about special photo finishes, glass glare, lenticular printing. I read about light reactive coatings that revealed or hid parts of an image depending on viewing angle or lighting. The more I read, the clearer my idea became. I wanted to give her something she couldn't modify, couldn't crop. Something that would make her see me, only me, every single time. She tried to look away. I wasn't going to sabotage her wall with something garish or ugly. It needed to be perfect, professional. I worked in the evenings while my husband watched TV or scrolled his phone. He didn't ask what I was doing. He seemed relieved I'd stopped talking about the photos at all. I designed the image carefully. I picked a lovely family shot from the 4th of July BBQ, the real one, where I was in it, sparkler in hand. I edited the colors, balanced the contrast, made sure everyone looked their best. Then I used a layering technique that allowed me to hide a second image in the glare that would appear only under certain lighting. The hidden layer was just me, looking straight at the camera, smiling. I ordered the custom print from a specialty lab, paid extra for rush shipping. When it arrived, I felt my pulse flutter. It looked normal at first glance, a beautiful, cheerful family photo, exactly what she'd want to hang on her wall. But tilt it under the glare of an afternoon sunbeam or a bright lamp. My face would appear, layered over the whole frame. You couldn't not see me. I tested it for days. I hung it in different rooms in our apartment. I watched it transform in the shifting light, appearing and disappearing like a ghost. My husband asked once, half interested, "Working on a new project?" "Just trying something creative," I said. He nodded and went back to his laptop. He didn't ask again. I bought the frame to match hers exactly. Same rustic black wood, same matting, same dimensions. I wanted no excuse for her to reject it, no aesthetic difference she could blame. I even wrapped it carefully in silver paper with a black satin ribbon. I wanted her to think it was a gift, because it was. It was the most honest gift I could give her, proof that I'd been there all along. Before the family get-together, I sat on my couch, turning the frame over in my hands. It felt heavy, not just because of the glass and wood, but because of what it meant. I didn't hate her, not really. Hate would have been simpler. What I felt was colder, resolved. I didn't need her approval. I just wanted the truth to be unavoidable. When I packed it in the car, I took one last look at it in the rearview mirror. The family photo was perfect, wholesome, happy. But under the glare, I was unmissable, uncroppable. I didn't rush the plan. I waited for the right occasion because that's what she would have done. Spring brought my father-in-law's birthday, a big family dinner she planned weeks in advance. She sent out a meticulous group text with the menu, the start time, and a polite reminder to dress nicely for pictures. Of course. When my husband told me about it, I smiled. "Perfect," I said. He glanced at me warily, but didn't ask questions. He was relieved I hadn't brought up the photos in months. I let him have that peace. The morning of the party, I was calm. I baked lemon bars for dessert and wrapped the frame with extra care. I chose silver paper to match her decor, tied a black satin ribbon she wouldn't be able to resist untying herself. Driving over, I felt strangely light. There was no anger anymore, just a deliberate focus. When we pulled into their driveway, my husband reached over and squeezed my hand. "You okay?" I smiled at him. "I'm good." He seemed satisfied with that. Inside, everything was staged as always. The dining table groaned under her careful menu. The candles were unscented so they wouldn't clash with the food. The playlist was acoustic covers of classic rock. Her gallery wall was freshly updated. I counted 3 new photos since our last visit. None of them included me. She greeted us with her bright, practiced hostess smile. "Oh, Rachel, you brought dessert? That's sweet." "Homemade," I said, holding her gaze. She blinked first, turning away to fuss with the appetizers. Dinner passed in that polite, brittle way of family meals where no one actually likes each other enough to relax. She complimented her own cooking 3 times. My husband complimented it too. I played my part, thanking her for hosting, sipping my wine slowly, watching everything. When it was time for gifts, she arranged the pile with an organizer's eye for symmetry. "Let's do Dad's gifts first," she said, voice all sugar. We went around one by one. Bottles of scotch, new golf gloves, a grilling set. He seemed genuinely happy, which softened the room for a while. Then she announced, "And it looks like Rachel brought something?" All eyes turned to me. I smiled and held out my package. "It's for the family," I said evenly. "Thought you might want to add it to the wall." Her eyes narrowed just for a second. Then she took it, turning it in her hands, feeling the quality of the wrapping. She liked things that looked expensive. She slowly pulled the ribbon free. The room was silent except for the crinkle of paper. She lifted the frame out carefully, eyes scanning the front. It was perfect, a beautiful, warm family shot. The 4th of July BBQ, all smiles and sparklers, me right there laughing, part of them. She stared at it, her expression carefully neutral. My sister-in-law leaned over to see. "Oh, that's a nice one. We look so happy there." My husband's eyes met mine across the table. He didn't say anything, but he knew exactly what I'd chosen. My mother-in-law cleared her throat. "Very thoughtful," she said finally. She placed it carefully on the table, fingers resting on the frame. For a moment, the candlelight caught the glass at just the right angle. I saw it, the hidden layer. My face, bright and clear, looking straight at her. She blinked, shifted, moved her head slightly. There I was again, her perfect family photo, suddenly featuring me inescapably. She let out a breath. No one else noticed. The glare only worked from certain angles. But I saw her see it, saw the tiniest flinch, before she smoothed her features back into that empty smile. "That will fit right in," she said tightly. "I measured," I replied softly. 8 by 10, matches the others. She didn't answer, but she didn't refuse it either. She couldn't. After dinner, while everyone had coffee and dessert, she set the frame on a side table, carefully angled away from the lamp. I watched her move it 3 times before giving up and leaving it there. I didn't gloat. I didn't even smile. I just sipped my coffee and watched her wrestle with the reality she couldn't crop. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. After dessert, the conversation drifted into that polite, shallow territory families use when they're avoiding real conflict. My sister-in-law talked about her kids' swim lessons. My husband and his brother debated which local brewery had the best IPA. I contributed when it was expected of me, but mostly I watched her. My mother-in-law sat at the head of the table, her posture a little too stiff. She kept darting glances toward the frame resting on the side table, as if it might jump up and bite her. Once she got up to adjust it, rotating it so the glare didn't catch the hidden image. She probably thought no one noticed, but I did. So did my husband. He shot me a sideways look, part curiosity, part worry. I just sipped my coffee. She came back to the table and forced a bright tone. "So Rachel, any big plans this summer?" It was the kind of small talk she used to regain control, to reset the mood. I gave her a calm, pleasant smile. "Nothing major, just focusing on family." I let that word hang in the air for a second too long. Her fingers tightened on her mug. It wasn't the reaction I would have wanted once, back when I still hoped she might like me. I didn't expect warmth or welcome anymore. I only wanted truth. And here it was. She couldn't erase me. She couldn't post her sanitized little gallery without including that one frame I'd given her. If she wanted the matching set, she'd have to accept the version of family that actually existed. When the table was cleared, she tried again to relocate the frame. She placed it near the TV cabinet where the light was softer. She adjusted the lamp. I watched her tilt it back and forth, testing the glare, trying to control it. But she couldn't eliminate it completely. Every time she turned away and glanced back, there I was, faint but undeniable. My husband finally spoke up. "It's a really nice photo, Mom. Kind of shows how fun that day was." He meant it as a peace offering, but it landed like a quiet accusation. She paused, lips pressing together, then forced another smile. "Yes, very inclusive." That word choice nearly made me laugh. I felt something inside me uncoil for the first time in months. Not triumph exactly, just relief. She knew I knew, and she knew there was no coming back from it. We left not long after. I thanked her for dinner, complimented the roast, said goodbye with perfect politeness. She did the same, though her eyes had lost that patronizing gleam. Instead, they were wary, calculating. She didn't hug me. She didn't even try. In the car, my husband was quiet at first. Finally, he asked, "You really put some thought into that picture." I watched the house shrink in the rearview mirror. I did. He didn't argue, didn't defend her. He just nodded slowly, turning his eyes back to the road. The drive home was silent, but not uncomfortable. It felt like an unspoken agreement had been made. At home, I put away the leftover lemon bars, washed the travel container, and sat at the kitchen table for a long time. I felt tired to my bones, but not defeated. I knew she'd never love me. I knew she'd never change. But she would never be able to forget me either. She'd hang that frame because it matched the others, because appearances mattered to her more than anything. And every day, when the sun hit the glass just right, she'd see me there, laughing, part of her family, uncroppable. In the weeks after that dinner, things settled into a new kind of normal. We still got the group texts for family events. I still showed up, but the dynamic had shifted in a way that was impossible to ignore. My mother-in-law tried to act unchanged, of course. She was too proud to admit anything had gotten under her skin, but she didn't instruct me where to stand in photos anymore. She didn't hover behind me with her phone, zooming and cropping in real time. The next family gathering, she barely took any photos at all. I watched her pick up her phone, hesitate, and then set it back down. When someone else insisted on a group shot, she managed a tight smile and didn't protest when I stood beside my husband, arm around his waist, smiling straight at the camera. No one said anything, but they felt it too. My sister-in-law actually tagged me in the photos she posted later. I wondered if she even realized what a small act of solidarity it was. Maybe she did. At home, I went through my old digital folder one last time, the one full of her cropped versions. I sat there for a while, scrolling through those silent insults preserved in pixels. I didn't feel the same sharp hurt anymore, just a kind of quiet finality. I'd kept them as proof for so long, but now they felt unnecessary. I didn't need to show them to anyone. I didn't need to convince anyone anymore. I deleted them. It felt clean. My husband noticed I'd changed too. I wasn't tense before visits. I didn't rehearse defensive conversations in my head. When he asked if I was okay, I meant it when I said yes. He never asked what I'd put in that frame. Part of me respected him for that. Another part wished he had, but he accepted me, in his quiet, conflict-avoidant way, that would have to be enough. I even started bringing my own camera to family events, not to challenge her, but to take my own photos, unedited, unfiltered, true. Candid shots of the kids covered in cake, my husband laughing with his brother, even the dog sneaking scraps under the table. I printed them out, put them in our own frames at home. Our wall wasn't as perfect as hers. The frames didn't match. The alignment was a little off. But they were ours. I didn't need to be in her story anymore. I had my own. As for that frame I gave her, I don't know if she ever truly accepted it. Maybe she kept it because throwing it away would have meant admitting defeat. Maybe she turned it to avoid the glare 100 times. Maybe she cursed me in private every time she caught my smiling face in the glass. I honestly didn't care, because it was there, permanent. A quiet reminder that you can't erase people just because you don't like them. A lesson in the cost of control, and in the power of refusing to be invisible. If you've ever been erased, silenced, or made to feel invisible, you know how this feels. Don't let anyone crop you out of your own life. Share your story below. I'll be reading every single one.